This phone offers great value, but it also has a few issues. Now this is iQOO's Z10 Turbo Pro, the phone that's going to be sold as the iQOO Neo 10 in India, and there is a lot to like about this one. This flaming orange back, a 7000 mAh battery, the flagship-esque performance numbers, but there are issues too. And let's talk about all that. If this is your first time here, or in case you just can't remember, my name's Ash, you're watching C4E Tech, and let's get started. Let's begin with what's in the box. And iQOO, they've done good. We've got the phone itself, a quick start guide, a soft case, the SIM tool, and here's my favorite part, a USB Type-C to Type-C cable, and a 120-watt Vivo Flash charger. Now this charger, it supports 100 watts PPS, meaning if you're traveling with your phone and say a laptop, you could technically use just one charger for both devices. And given how small this one is, it's definitely convenient. Now like I mentioned, this phone comes with a 7000 mAh battery. And here's a funny story, the first time I saw the spec sheet, my first thought was, so lower capacity than the Redmi. And this was just in my head just for a moment, because I caught myself, I was asking myself, did you just crib about the battery capacity being lower when they're offering a 7000 mAh battery? Because for a moment I did. And it's insane, right? How quickly the battery landscape has been changed because of silicon carbon tech. Anyways, one good thing about this phone is that unlike a lot of the competition, iQOO have confirmed that as the Neo 10, the battery capacity is not going to be downgraded for India. It's still going to be 7000 mAh. And this 7000 mAh can be charged back up very quickly thanks to 120 watt charging, 40% in 15 minutes, a full charge in 35. Great. And given its silicon carbon, this phone is still quite slim. The thickness is just a tad over 8mm. Just see this? The display, it's flat, but the back, it curves at the edges and the frame is chamfered. So in hand, the iQOO feels even slimmer. It's quite comfortable to hold. I do wish the fingerprint scanner placement was a little higher, but for the most part, it's quite comfortable. Now, I really like this back. The orange this time, it's gotta be my favorite. The other three are fine, but those backs, they are plain. Well, this one looks like a burning flame when you look at it a certain way. Now, with the cameras, iQOO's kept that flagship iQOO 13 porthole design. Though this is only a dual camera setup, this is the flash and this here is purely cosmetic. We'll talk about cameras in a bit. Now the back and the frame are both plastic, but they have a matte finish and are pretty resistant to fingerprints and smudges. I guess iQOO had to go plastic here to keep the price competitive and or the weight manageable. It's a little over 200 grams. By the way, there is still an IP65 rating though. Think about this for a minute. A back that looks like it's burning, and a chip on the inside that the last time we saw it was on a phone that felt like it was burning when you pushed it. I went in thinking I'd definitely appreciate the irony if this phone were to run just as hot. But thankfully that wasn't the case. This phone ran pretty cool. 43 degrees is what it maxed out at when it was being stressed for 20 minutes straight. That said, it wasn't all roses because the stability score was worse than the Redmi. This phone lost over 60% of its peak performance after 20 minutes. So seems like this is an 8S Gen 4 issue where Redmi let the phone run hot for a bit more stability. iQOO's just been more conservative with the thermals, so they've just throttled things quicker to keep the phone cooler. Now there were a few people in my last video who were asking, bro, is there a way that silicon carbon is causing this heat? If it's not the 8S Gen 4, maybe it's the high capacity battery. I don't think so. Silicon carbon does not really cause any more heating than your regular battery. But given this phone actually has bypass charging support, I decided to test that. And as expected, after running the stress test, there wasn't any noticeable difference in the scores. They were pretty much the same. Now, the 8S Gen 4, it does have potential. In fact, I did a full explanation on what it's made up of, what exactly the chip is in my Redmi Turbo 4 Pro video. I'll add a link to that below the like button. So if you want a more detailed look at the breakup of the cores and the tech used, etc., check out that video. Now, the 8S Gen 4 has a lot of potential, and iQOO's not cheaped out on the other specs either. We get the faster LPDDR5X Ultra RAM, along with UFS 4.1 storage, and iQOO's even thrown in the Q1 chip for super resolution and frame generation. But if you want to realize that potential, you're gonna have to get yourself an external cooler like this. When I reran the same test with the cooler on, this was my stability score. These scores are much better, right? Now, with regular use, I did not experience any issues. Origin OS 5 was very quick, very responsive. Yes, in other markets, this phone should be launching with FunTouch OS, but I don't expect performance to be any worse given all that horsepower underneath, and the 144Hz refresh was also welcome. Once again, that said, I wish I could given us 90 and 120Hz options here. Still, this is a very good display, 6.78 inches, AMOLED, 1.5K resolution. It also happens to be very bright, 4400 nits for HDR is the claim. In my testing, it output about 2000 nits under auto mode, so it's very easy to use outdoors. Now, if you are someone sensitive to OLED flicker, iQOO provides 2160Hz PWM dimming out of the box. But if you enable developer options, you can switch that up to 4320Hz or go with full DC-like dimming depending on your preference. So a good display, that's definitely a strength of this phone. What is not a strength of this phone though is the optics. The primary is the decent Sony Light 600, a 50 megapixel half-inch sensor that's paired with an f1.8 lens that is optically stabilized. Guys, we've seen this sensor a lot, and here on this iQOO phone, it performs more or less similarly. The one thing that did stand out to me is the fact that iQOO kinda boosts the saturation a little. Weirdly, they don't do that with the ultra-wide, so that difference is very noticeable when we see these images side by side. And the ultra-wide itself is pretty average. It's 8 megapixels, no autofocus, so no macros. Under low light, the primary, it performed just fine. But for video, yes, you can shoot 4K 60, but there's a whole lot of EIS jitter with a bit of focus hunting thrown in. So I found the video capability of this phone very underwhelming. And not just for the rear camera, the 16 megapixel selfie camera only lets you shoot 1080-30 video that's not even stabilized and very over sharpened. The stills, unlike the video, they were usable, but they also had that over sharpening done. Now the underwhelming optics and the heavy throttling, they do leave a sour taste in the mouth, but the price at which iQOO launched this phone, that does go a fairly long way in washing that sour taste out. So this phone in China, it's been launched at 1999 RMB, converted prices on screen right now. So like I said, it is very competitively priced. Even the rumored Indian launch prices seem sensible. To me, if cameras weren't high on your list of priorities and you wanted a phone that's snappy and quick, feels good in hand, has a very bright, very high quality display with a mammoth battery capacity and one that can deliver great performance in bursts, sustained even if you're willing to throw on an external cooler, and manages to do all that at a very competitive price, if that's what you want, this iQOO, it could work for you. But then again, that's just my opinion. What do you think about this phone? Leave a comment below that like button. And I guess that's it. Ash, out.